Good evening, everyone. Thank you for those of us that joined earlier by 5 on the dots. Thank you for waiting for 5 minutes for others to join. We appreciate your patience. And for those of us that are just joining, thank you for joining us on today's session. So happy new month to every one of you here, and thank you for joining us on today's episode of our Tech Security 101 webinar series. We're 7 weeks into being consistent with this webinar series, and really it's been an exciting journey for us. We would also like to appreciate you for sticking with us thus far and hope that it has been just as exciting for you as well. My name is Chisom Anaesiuba. I'm a marketing executive at Ha-Shem Limited, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. So moving on to the business of the day, our topic for today brings our attention to today's continuously evolving server and cloud environments, where suspicious changes can easily go undetected. As such, those who have zero tolerance for advanced persistent threats need to take a closer look at McAfee application and change control software. So McAfee application control uses a dynamic trust model, local and global reputation intelligence, real-time behavioral analytics, and auto-immunization of endpoints to help IT outsmart cybercriminals and keep businesses secure and productive. On the other hand, we have McAfee change control, which blocks unauthorized changes to critical system files, directories, and configurations, while streamlining the implementation of new policies and compliance measures. So basically, our topic for today is application and change control with McAfee. And today, taking us on this topic is Temitayo Aremu, a network and security engineer at Ha-Shem Limited. So I'll allow Temitayo to give us more details on his certifications and competencies as we go on in the webinar. So now, just before I hand over to Temitayo, I would like to share some housekeeping rules, which would help us to have a seamless learning experience. So first, would appreciate if everyone has their mics muted through the session. And if you have any questions as our speaker takes us through, kindly type it in the chat window or pen it down and hold on to it until the Q&A session, where we'll be addressing questions. During the Q&A session, you can then signify by raising your hand with the raise hand feature in the meeting window, and I'll call on you to proceed to ask your question. Also, kindly know that this session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available to all attendees after the webinar. There will also be a feedback survey towards the end of the session, which would appreciate every one of you here to fill in order for us to know how we're doing, how we can improve, and what other topics might be of interest to you that you would like us to cover in our subsequent sessions. And finally, you can keep up with us on events like this one by following us on social media. So I'm going to share a link to our social media platforms now. So I just shared that. You can check the chat window for it. So please endeavor to keep up with us. You can follow us on all or just your preferred social media channel. Thank you. And now I'll be handing over to Temitayo to take us on this interesting topic. Over to you, Temitayo.
Okay, just to confirm, can everybody hear me?
I can hear you, Temitayo.
Okay. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chisom, for that introduction. It was a beautiful one. Yeah, you've already spoken more about the product already before we even get started. Okay, so a beautiful evening to everyone on this call, and welcome to another session on our Tuesday Tech Security 101. So today, as Chisom has said, I'll be taking you through a very interesting topic, which is application and change control with McAfee. So with that introduction of Chisom, I think I would just want to move to my next slide. Okay, just a brief introduction about myself. My name is Temitayo Aremu, a network and security engineer. My workloads, I work with Sophos, SolarWinds, Cisco, Sonos, McAfee, which we'll be talking about today, and other network and security solutions. And the certifications I have, I'm a Sophos certified engineer and also a SolarWinds certified professional, network performance monitor to be precise. And for those who would like to know more about me, to know more about it, because this is just a brief introduction about myself. If you'd like to know about my career and all, you can follow this LinkedIn URL that I shared below, so you can check to know more about me. Yeah, our agenda for today, we'll be talking about what an application control is, and I think Chisom already did justice to that. We'll also talk about what change control is, and we'll be looking into the architecture of the application and change control of McAfee, which we'll be talking about today. And also we'll look into the product enablement modes, like the modes in which you can actually run this particular product on. And also we'll talk about the application control and change control, how it works in a managed environment. What I mean by managed environment, when we get to talk about the products, you get to understand what I mean by managed, because we have managed environment and we have unmanaged environment. So we just look at how it works in a managed environment. Then I'll dive straight to the demo, where I will show us just features about the product. Although there are many features about the product, but because of our time frame, I would just like to show little of the features of how the application and change control works. Then we'll be taking your questions and also be answering them. So let's just get to the business of today. What is an application control? As IT department, well, they face the daunting task in ensuring that their endpoints comply with corporate standards and security policies. And administrators are tasked with finding a viable software package to help combat this. Application control blocks unauthorized executables on servers, corporate desktops, and fixed function devices. Application control also uses dynamic whitelisting to guarantee that only trusted applications run on servers, devices, and desktop. It also eliminates the need for IT administrator to manually maintain list of approved application, and also guarantees the protection without impacting productivity. So with this application control, you can actually prevent malicious, untrusted, or unwanted software from being executed. You can also automatically identify trusted software and grant it authorization to run. And finally, you can block users from introducing software that poses a risk to your company. So if you have this application control running on any of your endpoints that is being used by a user in your company, based on the policies and everything you've put in place, you can actually block users from introducing any software that poses risk to your company. So why then do you want to use an application change control? Let us just talk about the features of why you want to use an application control. Some of the important features available on application control are its dynamic whitelisting functionality, its advanced protection, advanced memory protection, and it's also a reputation-based execution capabilities. So when we talk about dynamic whitelisting, it's essentially a managed solution that uses a dynamic trust model and innovative security features to fight against threats without requiring signature updates. And also, whitelisted application cannot be exploited by memory buffer flow attacks on Windows 32-bit and 64-bit system because of the application control advanced memory protection capabilities. Application control either blocks, allow, or ban the software execution and installation based on the reputation received for files and certificates from multiple sources, such as the Threat Intelligence Exchange servers, McAfee Global Threat Intelligence, which is GTI server reputation, and also file authorized or unauthorized based on set. So what is a threat intelligence exchange server, if you may want to ask me? The threat intelligence exchange server is a local reputation server that communicates with multiple reputation sources. So it fetches for reputation of any executables that you run in your organization. So if you are using this as a reputation-based execution for every endpoint that is running in your organization, once a user tries to run an application on the system, it tries to communicate with the threat intelligence exchange servers to get the reputation of that particular application you are trying to execute, and it effectively combines and collates intelligence from global sources with local threat intelligence. What about the McAfee GTI server? That one, it's a cloud-based service that functions as a reputation source also, and application control periodically synchronizes with the McAfee GTI server to fetch ratings for executable files and certificates. So the difference between these two is that the TIE, which is the threat intelligence exchange server, is a local reputation server, while the McAfee GTI server is a cloud-based service. So what is change control? Yeah, another major pressure point for administrators in managing their endpoint is the need to quickly administer and monitor policies for critical systems, for critical system files, directories, and specialized system configuration. So change control allows you to write protect and read protect critical files from unauthorized tampering, and you can also define trusted programs or users to allow updates to protected files and registry keys. A change control is allowed only if it is applied according to the software policies. And also, change control software also provides administrator the ability to both manage and monitor critical file system and directories for endpoints. So with change control, you can actually detect, track, and validate changes in real time. You can prevent changes. You can prevent changes using protection rules, and you can also enforce approved change policies. So why do you now want to use a change control in your environment? As many organizations today face a never-ending battle with their ever-changing server and data file infrastructure, some of the more important and useful features available on change control are its number one, which is the real-time file integrity monitoring, which continuously tracks changes to the file and registry keys. It identifies who made the changes to the tracked files. It also have change prevention, which protects critical files and registry keys from tampering. You also have content change tracking and also customizable filters. So let us look at the architecture of this application and change control. You can see here from my slide, you can see it's architecture solid core. So you might want to ask, what is solid core? Solid core is the name that is given to this product, which is application and change control. This is the what you find in the zip file or the package file that you download for that particular application and change control product. So this solid core extension installs on the EPO server to provide the user interface functionality and database modifications needed to support solid core. And the solid core client is loaded onto the EPO masters repository for distribution to endpoint. The master repository of the EPO server is where the solid core client, which is the package that you downloaded, it is being loaded into the EPO masters repository. This process is achieved with the managed environment because it will require you having an EPO server and also a database server. So when you are running application and change control in a managed environment, that means that particular EPO server is the one managing all the endpoints in the organization. So once you get the package file or the application and change control, one of the first things you do when you want to run the installation is for you to put in the solid core client to the EPO master repository for distribution to endpoints, and it's deployed via EPO.
Hello, I can't hear you again. No.
Oh, sorry.
Hi,
I can't hear you.
Sorry, excuse me. Chinelo, hi, good evening. Can everyone else hear Temitayo, please?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Oh.
Hello, Chinelo, please can you try rejoining the call? Can you hear me? I was typing it in the chat window.
Yes, we can.
Chinelo, can you hear me now? Okay, can I just go on?
Yes, you can go on, Temitayo. Thank you. Can go on.
Fix your system and see if you can join back. Okay, so as I was saying, so the solid core client is loaded onto the EPO masters repository for distribution to endpoint, and it's deployed via EPO using client task and managed through the EPO using policies. So you can ask me what's a policy. A policy is a set of rules that determines how solid core should function on user computers. And the solid core client provides the solidification of a system and ensure the policies are enforced. One of the key features of application and change control is the centralized management capabilities through EPO, e-policy orchestrator, where product deployment and configuration could be controlled. This is what I've been referring to as the EPO server. It is called e-policy orchestrator. So this is the one that manages all the system that you want to run application and change control on, and it is responsible for sending out client tasks and policies to each and every endpoint being managed by the EPO server. So still on the architecture, so let's also talk about EPO, McAfee agent, and the extension. So application control and change control is managed by the solid core extension that is checked into the EPO database. At that point, policies and tasks for application control and change control are handled via bilateral communication between the McAfee agent and the endpoint. That's what the endpoint does. That's what the agent does. The agent creates the communication between the EPO server and the endpoint. So once you've gotten the package of the application and change control, you've checked in the solid core extension to the EPO server and also the solid core client to the EPO master repository, the agent is deployed to each endpoint and creates what we call agent to server communication. This is what is responsible for taking all the client tasks that you create from the EPO server and all the policies that is being assigned from the EPO server to the targeted endpoints. Still on the McAfee agent functionality, the McAfee agent resides on the endpoint and it controls the endpoints according to the EPO defined security policies. It also serves as the manager for other McAfee deployed endpoint products, acting as an intermediate between the EPO and the product. And for the EPO to recognize that a managed endpoint system McAfee agent must be deployed for that specific application like solid core. So for the EPO server to recognize that a system is being managed on its console, it has to be running a McAfee agent. This is what creates the communication with the EPO server and shows us on the EPO server that particular endpoint is being managed. Still talking about the architecture, there's this McAfee agent handler. So McAfee agent handler, this distributes network traffic generated by agent server communication by directing managed system or group of system to report to a specific agent handler. You can ask me a question that if I'm managing all my system within the network and a particular user takes his or her system home, especially during this pandemic period whereby most organizations staffs are working from home, and you still want to assign policies to this particular user and it's no more on your network. So this is one of the functions that the McAfee agent handler gives. So it creates like a replicate of what the EPO server does and send it to the agent. So it handles the agent. Since the agent can't communicate with the EPO server on the same network, the agent communicates with the McAfee agent handler, and the McAfee agent handler gets all the information needed for that agent from the EPO server and sends it to the McAfee agent. Once assigned, a managed system communicates with the assigned agent handler instead of with the McAfee EPO server. And also the handler provides updated site list. It also provides policies and policy assignment rules, just as the McAfee EPO server does. The handler also catches the content of the master repository so that agents can pull product update packages and other needed information. So the McAfee agent that is running on that particular endpoint communicates with the EPO server in a DMZ or a NAT environment with the use of agent handlers. So let us talk about the components that that application control and change control has. One is the solid core extension, and the other is the solid core client. So application control and change control management is done by two components, which is the solid core extension and the solid core client. And the solid core extension can be installed either manually, that means downloading the zip file from their website, or via software management in the EPO. This software manager is found in the EPO, where you can actually get every of McAfee products, and once you get them, you can download and check them into the EPO server. The extension allows administrators to manage policies and tasks in EPO for application control and change control. And once checked in, the solid core admin and solid core reviewer permission sets are created in EPO server. So the solid core clients can also be installed manually or via software manager. This can also be found in the EPO server, and it provides change monitoring, change prevention, and whitelisting capabilities on endpoints, and can be installed and deployed on Microsoft Windows, Linux, and AIX platforms. So the solid core client functionality, the basic functionality flow for the solid core endpoint agents through plugin to the McAfee agent is displayed here. The policy and the task enforcement and property gathering request flows from the McAfee agent through the solid core plugin to the solid core endpoint agent. And once the solid core endpoint agent processes the information, property responses for the local policy and task, as well as system property, is sent back through the plugin to the McAfee agent for displaying in the EPO console. So this is how the communication works. Once you enforce a policy or enforce a task from the McAfee solid core EPO server, it goes through the agent and uses a plugin called the SEOR plugin, which converts policy objects, client tags, properties, requests to solidify commands, and this command is the one that is being sent to the solid core endpoint agents. So what are the product enablement modes? The modes in which you can actually use this application and change control in. Observe mode, you can use it in observe mode, and this is the mode that indicates that application control is running, but it only monitors and logs observation. The application doesn't prevent any execution or changes made to the endpoint. Instead, it monitors execution activities and compares them with the local inventory and predefined rules. In this observe mode, it also supports reputation-based execution, whereby you can use the TIE server and the GTI server. When you execute a file, application control fetches its reputation from these particular servers. You can also run application and change control in an enabled mode, which is the mode that gives the solidification, and it is recommended operating mode. This mode indicates that the application control is running and protection is enabled. This enabled mode also supports reputation-based execution, that means it makes use of the TIE server and the GTI server. And when you execute a file, application control fetches its reputation and all certificates associated with that file to determine whether to allow or ban the file execution. You can also run the application control and change control in an update mode, which is the mode that indicates that protection is effective, but changes are allowed on protected endpoints. This is when you perform software updates. So once you want to perform a software update, you can put the endpoint on update mode, put the application and change control on update mode, and it tracks and records each changes, and it also dynamically updates the whitelist to make sure that the new binaries and files that are authorized to run on the system returned to the enable mode. So once you put it on the update mode, it's update. Maybe let's say it's already in enable mode, and you try to run any other application, it won't take the application at that particular time. But once you put it on update mode and you run any application, it takes in the application and also updates the whitelist list that it has on the EPO server. You can also run application control and change control in disabled mode, and this is the mode that indicates that the software isn't running at all on the system, although the application is installed and the features are enabled, but it is not running on the system. So after you install, the application appears in the disabled mode by default, so it doesn't have any mode. You have to put it on either observe mode, enable mode, or update mode. And as I've said earlier, that the recommended operating mode, it is the enable mode, which provides the solidification of that particular endpoint. So how does application control works in a managed environment? Application control creates a whitelist of all unauthorized executable files. When you attempt to run an executable file that isn't whitelisted, application control checks the reputation of the files and allows or block its execution. So one of the first processes that it does is that when a user or application tries to execute a file on a managed endpoint where application control and agent is installed, application control checks the reputation of the files and allows or blocks its execution. The third step is that application control communicates with the McAfee threat intelligence servers to receive reputation information for the file and any associated certificates based on this information that is being provided. And application control allows or blocks the file execution. The fourth step is that if the threat intelligence TIE server is unavailable, application control communicates with the McAfee Global Threat Intelligence Server to fetch the reputation of the file. The McAfee Data Exchange Layer, which is DSR, provide the framework for communication between application control and the Threat Intelligence Exchange Server or McAfee GTI server. So products can share threat information. So the sixth step, according to what I'm showing on my slide now, is that the administrator manages all endpoints, deploys policy, creates rules, adds certificates, manages the inventory, monitor activities, and also approve requests. So information about the attempts to run the application is sent to the McAfee EPO server, which is shown in the number 7 part of the slide I'm currently displaying. So once the information attempts to run the application, when I said an attempt to run the application, it sends the information to the EPO server where it appears in the dashboard and reports and sends a report and also a log to the EPO server. So how does change control works in a managed environment? Change control, as we said earlier, that it prevents unauthorized changes to critical system files, directories, and configuration while implementing new policies and compliance measures. It also tracks changes to files and registry keys in real time, and it identifies who made changes to a particular file. So from this graphical representation I'm showing here, the first step is that a system user tries to change a file or registry on a managed system where change control and application and McAfee agents are installed. So the second step, the change control software recognizes the attempt that someone is trying to execute a change control on a particular file, maybe a registry file, and it uses the McAfee agent to send a change control event to the McAfee EPO server. The third step, change control analyzes the rules and policies enforced on the endpoint and allows or block the change. So based on the rules that you've set, this is the point whereby it analyzes the rules and policies to enforce on the endpoint whether you set it to allow or you set it to block. And the fourth step, this is where the read protection or write protection is enforced and the user change attempt is approved or denied. So based on the policy you set, whether to read protection policy you set against that file or a write protection policy is what is set against that file, that is what it will use to allow that particular attempt either to approve it or to deny it. Then the fifth part is the change control database logs the file change attempts to the local user information, just as the application server. So once all this process is concluded, it sends back to the EPO server the logs and reports. So enough of all the talk. So let us go straight into the demo where I will show us how application and change control works in a managed environment. So before I start, I want to show us my environment. So here I have a domain controller which I use to integrate Active Directory with the application and change control EPO server. And I also have the EPO agent handler installed, which allows communication of endpoints over the DMZ zone or the NAT zone. And also this is my McAfee EPO server, which is responsible for the management of all endpoints running on my organization. And this is the database where every statistics and information gotten from endpoints is being sent to repository. And these are my test PCs. So let me just go straight to the console where I will show you. Okay, so this is the McAfee EPU server platform that manages all the endpoints running in the organization. So under the system tree, you will see the current system that has been managed by this EPU server. Currently, I have a domain controller that is being managed, and also my first test PC and the second test PC. And I also have an external PC, which is being managed by the agent handler. You can see the IP address is in another range, which is 10.0.0.5, assuming that it is away from the organization network, which other servers and other test PCs resides in. So just to take you through the EPO server before I go through and show you how the application control works, because I'll be taking you through how the application, it stops the executables based on whether you specify the directories or you specify a user, and also allows executables based on whether you specify the directories or you specify the user or specify the binary name of that particular application. So from this, you can see the reporting section, the dashboard, security sources, queries and reports, audit logs, the client tasks. This is where you create tasks to send to those particular endpoints. You have the system trees, which shows you the list of the system. Policy pane, this is where you create policy and assign rules. Software, this is the part, this is the master repository. This is where you check in every product that you download, either manually or from the software manager. This is the software catalog where the software manager and all products runs on. So once you download those products from this software catalog, you can actually check them into the master repository. So once you check them into the master repository of the EPO server, you can now deploy all those products to the endpoints. And configuration, this is where you do the basic configuration of your EPO server. User management, this is where you create local users to log in to your EPO server, or you can actually integrate with Active Directory so that your Active Directory users can also log in, and you can set permissions to what those particular users are allowed to do on the EPO server. This is the application control section, and it shows the inventory, policy discovery. So this is the section that shows you the inventory of all the files and application and software gathered from the endpoints that you're managing on the EPO server. So let me just go straight and bring in a test PC that has been solidified by the application and change control. Okay, so this is a test PC, and I've actually installed application and change control on. You can actually check from here. You can see application and change control. Okay, so the status is okay. So currently now I have taken it has taken a dynamic whitelisting of all the software that is currently running on this system, and currently it has been solidified, and it won't allow any executables to run on this particular system. So as a user who wants to use a WinRAR, and you've actually specified in your organization that this particular user can't use more than maybe Office, Word and all, and the user wants to actually use WinRAR to and wants to install it on the system, and you as an administrator, it hasn't been allowed for him to use it. Once he tries to run the executable, he gets a prompt that says WinRAR.is is not on the corporate whitelist and will not be allowed to run. If you like your administrator to allow this, please click on the request approval button. So from here, you can either maybe call your administrator to allow, or from here, you just click on request approval. Once you click on request approval, it brings up your email, whereby you can send mail to the particular administrator, and the administrator, while configuring the EPO server, will have specified the email address that will get all these notifications. So once you click on request approval, it automatically fill in the email address of that particular administrator, and if it is IT that is in charge of the one monitoring the EPO server. So once you send it to them, they will get to know that, okay, you actually want them to allow this particular application. So from this PC now, let's try to allow this PC to run this WinRAR.is from this system based on the policies that I'm going to create right now. So we'll go back to the EPO server. I'll go to the policy catalog. So now this is solid core, which is the application and change control. So you have here, you can create rules for integrity monitoring to track the registry files and files, as we've said during my presentation about change control. You can create application control rules for both Windows and Unix. You can create this is where you create the settings of the application control options, and you can actually create change control rules. So for that particular system now, okay, let me get the IP address of that system. As a second. Okay, .7. .7 is test PC01. Okay, so let's go back to the policy. So I'll just go ahead and say I want to create a new policy. So it asks me what category, application control. So you have the application control option, application control rules. So I'm creating a policy based on the application control rules for Windows. So it brings in all the templates that you have currently, the rules and policies you've created. But I'm going to use a blank template for this, and I'll just say allow mirror. Okay, so this loads a page whereby you can actually specify based on the updater processes certificate of that particular application. If you have the certificate information of that particular application, you can add it here. It will allow you to run the application based on installers, based on directory, based on user, based on the executable files, based on exclusion filters and executable control. But for this particular one I'm about to do now, we're going to use the directory. We're going to use the directory where that particular application resides in to allow that particular user to run the application. So let me just get the directory. So I'll copy the directory. So instead of doing this, if it is a particular user that is in a remote network, once he sends that request for approval, it shares this particular directory with the administrator to see, to allow that particular application, if the administrator wants to use it based on the directory. Okay, so I'll click add. So you can include, if you click include, this means that you should include this particular directory to the whitelisted information that it has currently after creating the solidification. But if you click exclude, you can use exclude if you have a particular application or that particular user system and you don't want that application to run any longer. So you use the exclude option. But since we want to allow WinRAR to run, so we use the include option. Okay. Then you save. So that is not all. If you check the allow WinRAR test, if you check the assignment pane, it's telling me affected system. No system is being affected yet. So you have to push that policy against that target server, target PC that you want to allow WinRAR. So it is our test PC 01. So I'm going to check the PC. So since it's the agent that is responsible for the communication that takes policies and tasks, so I'm going to say the agent, and I'm going to set policy and here returns. So yeah, the product I want to set policy through is solid core application control. The category is rules for Windows. Then the policy name is allow WinRAR test. So once I'm done with that, I save. And after doing this, you have sometimes there's a particular a particular range of time that is being set for the agent to server communication, which is 5 minutes. So if we want it actually to run immediately, that is the work of the wake up agent. So if I click on wake up agent, it sends a wake up call to that particular endpoint at that time to receive the policy immediately. I hope I'm on the PC. Okay, so let us just check the monitor of the McAfee to see. You can see as at the time 5:45, it has agent finished enforcing policy. So if I try to run this application, you can see it has allowed me to run the application. So I can install the application source. Let me enforce the policy. What's it saying? It's not on the corporate network, so it's no more referring to that particular winraw.is. Now it's saying, because when I downloaded the particular applications, it created so many files on the download page. So it's telling me at C program files.winraw.install.is. Since this is not specified in the directories when I created in the EPO server, so I'm not going to use that winraw.is. I'm going to use the direct folder for winraw straight up, so that I won't be getting this prompt. So it's going to take every information that is relating to the winraw. Sorry, let me go through the steps again. So I'm going to edit that policy. C program files winraw uninstall.exe. Oh, sorry. Just a second. Okay. So we can see that's installed the rerun successfully. So sometimes because of the agent to server communication time, which takes 5 minutes, you can come here to check for new policy, enforce policy, so that the system will take the policy straight up. So we've checked on how it works using directories. We can also use using executables instead of providing the directory. If that would be too long for the user for the administrator to use, you can also use the executable straight up, which is the name of the particular application, instead of using directory. So I'll be using another test PC, which is second PC. Let me use this PC to simulate that process. Sorry. Okay, so that's it. So right now, I'll still be using this as an example. You can see it's not allowing me to run this particular application, which is running on this particular application, on this particular endpoint also. So I'm also going to allow it, but this time around, I won't be using directory. I'll be using the executable name. So let me just edit this policy executable file and add. I'll just say rule name is allow. And the file name is WinRAR. So I can remove this, remove this. So I'm also going to assign that policy to the PC I want it to work with, which is the test second PC. Application control, and I'm using allow mirror test. So I'll do the agent wake up call. Okay, so I'll go straight to the PC. And also so that you take the policy. Let me confirm. That's it. Sorry. Let me see the information it's giving me. See. No, the communication. I'm trying to check the communication. So allow. If I have there. Oh, the time it will take the policy and it will be allowed to run. So let us just waste much time there because of the communication. Let us just waste more time there. Let me just go ahead and show us the agent handler part, whereby you have a particular system that is within the organization and it's taken away from the organization to maybe a remote environment, and you still want it to communicate with your EPO server. So if you want that to occur, first thing you have to do is to spin up a server. If you spin up a server, you install the agent handler package on it, and here you will see the agent handler information. As you can see here, I have two agent handlers. The first one is my EPO server, which is the one that is responsible for the sending information to the application to the endpoints within the environment. But this is my EPO agent handler, which is the one that is responsible for systems that are not within the environment or within the network, are outside the network. You can see I have published this particular server. So the server has to exist in the DMZ zone. That means it has to be publicly accessible. So you can see it has a public IP address, and this is the endpoint in which I have actually assigned the handler to, the test PC handler. You can see the IP address is different from other system on the network, and it can communicate with the EPO server through the agent handler. Let's go to the PC. Let me just show us the PC. Okay, so this is the PC. If you check the about, you can see it's communicating. If it is within the environment, organization environment, it will communicate with the EPO server using this IP address. But if it is outside the environment, it will communicate to the EPO server using the agent handler server. Just to confirm if it takes policies and tasks from the agent from the EPO server. If you say you should collect and send probes or check for new policies, to see it's saying agent is connecting to the EPO server. But for you to know that it is not within the agent within the EPO server network, if you try to ping the system from the agent server, from the EPO server, it's sending a ping request to that particular PC to see if you can reach it. It will give an error response because it can't reach it because it's not within the network. But because of the help of the test piece of the agent handler, it can actually communicate. It can actually communicate with the EPO server using the agent handler. So another architecture which I want to speak about, which is the unmanaged mode, whereby you run the application and change control as a standalone on a particular endpoint. So you can also use that deployment if you don't have the capability of getting maybe an EPO server or getting a database server or using an agent handler server. You want it to be on a standalone environment. You can actually still deploy application and change control on a standalone environment, whereby you install the package and it to also get solidified. So I have a test PC here where I have the agents at the standalone deployment on. So it's you have an administrator McAfee certified command line whereby you can actually allow, block any application on that particular endpoint. So it's unlike EPO server whereby you have a console whereby you can actually go, a GUI interface whereby you can actually go through and check and send policies to managed system and managed endpoints in the environment. If you are using the unmanaged, you have to write commands and check for and solidify the system. Once you have solidified the system, it won't allow you to run any executable, just like now. I've solidified the system and has taken a whitelist of all the softwares and applications running on that particular endpoint. So if I try to run any other executables, it's not going to take it because I haven't specified to be allowed. So if I want to allow this application now to run on this particular system based on the file name or based on the directory using the unmanaged part, then you have to write commands. So for this particular win run that I'm about to allow, I'll just say let's admin. Using the directory of this particular now. So I'll actually allow this part to allow applications to run. So if I try to run this application now, it allows me to run the application because I've actually specified the path. It is always easy to use the unmanaged environment sometimes because of the agents to server communication. So I think with what I've showcased so far, I'll be able to showcase to everyone how application and change control works in both managed environment if you are using the EPO server and also in an unmanaged environment. So if you have your questions now, I'll be taking them.
Thank you so much, Temitayo, for this insight, for the insightful session, and for going in depth in the demo. So because we're short on time, if you have any questions, please let's indicate now before we call it a day. Any questions, please? We're addressing questions now. If you have any questions, please raise your hand with the raise your hand feature in your meeting window, and I'll call on you to take your question. Okay, I'm assuming that the session has been very clear and you'll have an understanding of how application and change control works in McAfee. So we'll be concluding on, hello? Thought someone was about to speak. Okay, so we'll be concluding on today's webinar session. Thank you all for joining, and we hope you've enjoyed the session. Please do not forget to fill the feedback survey. I shared it in the chat window. Kindly fill it and let us know how today's session was. If you have any questions that you want us to address, you can send us an email at sales@hashem.com. We will be ready to respond to any of your questions. Let me just type that in the chat window quickly. Okay, so thank you all for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in our subsequent webinar sessions. Do enjoy the rest of your day.